Good evening, everyone out there in Facebook land. I think we're on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 channels there, as well as all over YouTube. And thank you for joining us this evening. While some of you join, go ahead and drop into our comments here where it is that you're joining from. This is an important live for many reasons, mainly because, again, I'm here to provide you, and Stand Up Michigan is always here to provide you with truthful, factual information to help you make informed decisions, but not always to tell you what you want to hear, not always to tell you just the rosy, but to tell you and share with you the realities in which we face. And there are many. Might go a little longer than I went in the other because I rushed some things, but I just want to, I just came off of our locals platform. For those of you who are over there, I covered a lot of this, but I might do a little bit of a deeper dive. But I want to get started as soon as possible here. So lots of people joining: Dearborn, Hartsat, Sego, Mendon, Tuscola, Eaton, Gaines Township, Grand Rapids, Kent City. I got West Virginia. We got you, West Virginia. Hey, why don't you talk to Manchin while you're over there, Deanna? I'm glad you're joining us here, but he certainly caved and didn't help us on this latest thing that he voted for. So I'm so thankful for all of you to be here, being here with us tonight. So how I want to start out with this is talking with you about where we are today. 2 weeks ago today was our primary election. In a primary election, it is a marathon. The primary election started for a lot of candidates almost 2 years ago. Certainly, it was announcing in January, February, March of 2021, an 18-month, 19-month campaign of getting together groups of people, attending hundreds of meetings to talk about your platform and differentiate you from the other Republican candidates, and then to encourage to get out the vote, raise money, of course, which is what some of them did almost exclusively in 2021. Some raising hundreds of thousands, some raising a couple of $1 million over 2021 and 2022. And 2 weeks ago today, we ended up with a race that one candidate got 4%, one got 15%, one got 18%, one got 21%, and one got 40%. Now, the person who won, who got 40%, and you remember I had mentioned to you a week before that you were going to be voting, and the 60% of you were not going to be voting for our ultimate candidate because they were probably not going to eclipse more than 40%. As it turned out, it was 40.6. So we're right there. 60% of you did not vote for the winner. You voted for a candidate you got to know, you followed on social media, you believed in over the others, and that's what's happened when you have 5 candidates, first of all. Secondly, the person who won, Tudor Dixon, won 80 counties, 80 out of 83. With 5 candidates, it's almost unheard of. The other 3 went to Kevin Renke, who spent in the neighborhood of $7 or $8 million. I didn't put him into the same category, mainly because it does show you can buy 21, 22% with $7 or $8 million. Now, it was told and it was discussed in the strategy side from the Republican, I guess you could say strategist, that it takes in the neighborhood of $10 million for you to get name recognition around the state. And typically, if you spend 10 or 15 and there's only 2, then you learn more about the 2 and you decide. When there's 5, you really don't, it's too confusing. You either focus on 1 or 2, and you don't really know much about the others. That's kind of where we were. I mean, admit it. That's kind of where we were. But the fact is, the guy who spent 7 or 8 million got 3 counties, and he got 21%. Those that spent almost 2 million or hundreds of thousands of dollars and spent 18 months and hundreds, and when I say hundreds, 200, 300, 400 meetings, cafes, restaurants, backyards, got 15, 18%. Add them together if you want. 15%, 18%, 33. They lose by 7. By the way, that's considered a huge victory if you win by 7. John Gibbs won by what? 2%, 3%? So you win by 7, you win by a lot. I'm throwing it out there to say to you that not only did she win, but she got the endorsements of all of the people that are conservative. I want to share that list with you. Newt Gingrich. I trust Newt Gingrich. I've been in calls with Newt Gingrich. Contract with America, pretty darn conservative. Senator Ted Cruz, one of the most conservative in the state, if not probably one of the most conservative in the Senate, excuse me. I don't know that there's anybody much more conservative than Senator Ted Cruz is. Dr. Ben Carson, conservative doctor. I mean, where do you fault Dr. Ben Carson in where he's at in his faith, where he is in life, where he is in conservatism as a whole, and worked obviously in HUD under President Trump's administration. And now we have Governor Glenn Youngkin. And if for those of you that haven't heard, Governor Glenn Youngkin, I'm just going to mention that right now, is coming to Michigan to campaign for gubernatorial candidate Tudor Dixon. He's going to be speaking at the Michigan Republican Party convention next week. He's going to headline the Michigan Republican Party state convention in support of the Republican ticket. And here is his statement. What we're seeing in Michigan is similar to what we saw in Virginia. For those of you that have been following us, you know we'll Stand Up Virginia. You know that we patterned our election integrity efforts. We patterned the parents who came up and rose up and voted for the first times, and how they overthrew a one-term governor that was not only well known, but was literally one of the most popular governors in regards to past presidents. Good friends with Obama, with the Clintons. I mean, he was in the Clinton campaign, and he had them all campaigning for him, and he still lost in the state of Virginia. And so he says here, Michigan is similar to what we saw in Virginia last summer. Voters come together demanding better education, safer communities, and manageable costs of living for their families. I'm excited to campaign with Tudor Dixon later this month and look forward to bringing the Virginia spirit to Michigan. Youngkin said about the Michigan race. This is, again, an incredible thing that is happening. And what I would ask you is for you to contrast, if you would, for me. Those of you that have been around Michigan for, I don't care, 10, 20, 30, 40 years, I want you to do a little history lesson with you. First of all, let's look past the amount of the governors that have been our governor in the state of Michigan. We have had Whitmer for 4 years. We know how that's worked out for us. The previous 8 years, we had Governor Rick Snyder. I want somebody to drop in the chat here whether you think Governor Rick Snyder was considered a conservative at all, maybe in business principles. Was he considered a conservative, or was he considered a very, very left-leaning Republican, if not an independent, if not a Democrat? I don't know. I mean, he called himself a Republican, but I just want to ask you the question because he was the 8 years before that. Before that, we had 8 more years of none other than Jennifer Granholm. How'd that work out for us? Look at her at the Energy Department now, and we can see who led Michigan for those 8 years. That takes care of the last 20 years. That takes us back to 1992 when we elected John Engler. He was elected, obviously, for 12 years, all the way through. And what I want you to ask you then is, was Governor Engler considered a Tea Party conservative? What do you think? Conservative? Maybe. Before that, we had Blanchard, Democrat. Now you go back to Milliken in 1969 for 12 years through 1981. The reason I'm throwing this out to you is, tell me the last time we've had a conservative governor in Michigan. And I know that you wanted to jump from Whitmer, that we voted for in 18, to the most right wing of whoever that might be, conservative, grassroots candidate to be governor of Michigan. The problem is the reality of Michigan is that we are simply not a red state yet. I say yet. We are purple at best. We may lean blue. We certainly did in 18. We passed promote the vote with 67%, including a lot of so-called Republicans. This is our time. But we are not going to win this election against a governor and the full media and $30 million spent by her and the Governors Association and Hollywood because they want this governor to go on to become potentially a Democratic nominee for president. They're going to do everything and anything they can to get her elected. I bring this up to you because I can promise you one thing, mark it down right now. Governor Tudor Dixon, Secretary of State Christina Caramo, and Attorney General Matt DePerno would make up the most conservative ticket that Michigan has seen in at least 50 to 60 years, if ever. Think about it with me. The things that they are committed to do, life always with Tudor Dixon, 100% life, as it was with the other candidates. Constitutional carry proves that. Pro-business, lower taxes, lower regulation. So we want to lean from our candidate didn't win, so let's talk about the money. Let's talk about the money. Well, guess what? It takes money to win elections. And I want to ask you, where does the money come from? Because we just went from an 18-month campaign where some raised hundreds of thousands and some raised a couple million in 18 months and spent it in 18 months and ended their campaigns with almost no money. They would need 10, 20, 30 million dollars, 20 at least, over the next 60 days. Where are they going to get it? What do you think the obstacles are for a candidate who won a primary 2 weeks ago and has to find somewhere to find 10 million, $20 million when it took 18 months and tens of thousands of grassroots people to get involved and send in their money? Now, I want to tell you what's happening nationwide right now, and I'm sure you're in the same boat, or a lot of you. We simply don't have a bunch of extra money in the grassroots right now. Inflation and gas prices and food prices and education, all of the costs associated with inflation are hitting every single one of us in the pocketbook. And we have seen individual contributions to candidates plummet in the last 60 to 90 days. Plummet. The money coming for these big campaigns, again, are coming from Hollywood. They're coming from Washington, D.C. They're coming from California. They're coming from Texas. They're coming from the governor of Illinois, who gave $250,000 to Whitmer. But we don't question where their money came from. We just know what we have to face. But for our candidate, it matters where their money comes from. The bottom line is they need money. They need it from wherever they can get it. It doesn't mean they're beholden to anything or anybody. And I can promise you that no matter what happens here, we have to look at the contrast that we have between the two candidates. And the reason I want to share that with you, and the reason that it's so important for you to understand this, is so that you see what we're actually up against right now. And that is the primary candidacy. I'm going to compare this to the Iowa caucus. In the Iowa caucus, again, they meet in those cafes, as I said, but once they're done and the primary candidate is chosen, do they go back and sit in the cafes and meet with those same people again? The answer is no. Will they show up in Iowa? Yes. But do they do what they did for the previous 18 months? They can't, because they have to go everywhere. They have to meet with a lot of people. They have to handle strategy. They have to do commercials because, yes, it's going to be television and it's going to be multimedia that's going to spread the word. They have to do national TV as much as possible to spread the word. And then I would ask a lot of you, are you still in the same social circles? Are you still following the same Facebook pages, the same groups that you followed with your campaign that you were with? It's great that you follow them. But as far as this campaign goes, will you begin to follow Christina and Matt's and Tudor's Facebook and Twitter accounts to see what it is they're doing, what it is they're putting out, and share those messages, as opposed to waiting for, I don't know, waiting for the candidate to come to your group and talk to you? Because the bottom line is, and this is a story that I had from a previous congressional candidate. He'd won for Congress. He was now won a statewide race in a primary to run for Senate. And the first meeting he went to was in the Tea Party days, was a large Tea Party organization. And he went in, and the leader of that got up and said, we're glad that you came because you need to tell us why it is we should vote for you. And to be honest, the candidate was flabbergasted, because he was saying, if I have to convince the most conservative people that the contrast with me versus the Democrat, as it is in this case, the socialist, the lawlessness, the oppressor that we have in Whitmer and Nessel and Benson, that this contrast isn't as blatant as you can see, and I have to convince you to vote for me, then the election's over, and I might as well leave. You see, we should have our votes already cast. We should be pivoting after 2 weeks to winning ticket, a winning message, and to creating and talking about the contrast of not just what's happened since 2020 through 2022, but what is likely to happen to us and our businesses and our children if we were to reelect Whitmer, Nessel, and Benson. And I want you to keep this in mind. As goes Michigan in 2024, I believe will go the presidency and potentially the nation. Do you think I don't know. I mean, do you think I'm blowing smoke? I don't think I am. Do you believe that you can win the presidency without winning Michigan? If you're a Republican, it's possible. Is it likely? No. Can you believe that we could win Michigan if Whitmer, Benson, and Nessel are there? One sending millions of absentee applications, one not upholding any of the laws in regard to election stuff, and Whitmer, who will do anything, not only in 2024, she'll never be running again, so she could care less what she does to us or your grandparents or your children. She's running to potentially run for that presidential spot. We can end that in 2022 in November in 80 some days. 80 some days. That's what we have. We have 80 some days. And we have to get the message out. And that message has to be that we are voting for conservatism, we're voting for freedom and liberty, and this slate of candidates are that, along with all of the candidates that we have running in both our county commissions across Michigan, as well as school boards and otherwise, all of those things, so that we become a much more conservative state, and obviously then pass bills and laws that back those things up. So I wanted to share that with you because I think it is vital for you to understand that where they got these 1 million total votes in the primary, they have to get double that amount. That's all the candidates combined. They have to get double that amount in order to potentially defeat Whitmer, and maybe more than that. There was 4.25 million votes cast in 2018. I am guessing that means, and Whitmer got 2,250,000 of those. So how many is it going to take to win? It means whatever your candidate got, 190,000, 160,000, you need about 10 to 12 to 15 times that, and you have 84 days to get it. I want to ask you how you propose to do that. Speaking in the same circles and talking into a echo chamber, because honestly, it is not going to happen. It's not going to work. And the more time we spend complaining, the less time we'll spend talking to our neighbors and making sure that we get out the vote, both to win these elections and to destroy these proposals, which is what I'm going to go to next. There's been a lot of confusion in regards to what proposals are going to be on the ballot and what aren't. So first, the good news, the Secure My Vote petition is not going to be on the ballot at all. It doesn't need to be, like the Unlock Michigan. This just simply needs a vote of the legislature, a majority, once the signatures are validated. The Secretary of State will not do that till after the November election, period. Just understand that. Wouldn't matter. It won't go into effect until 2023. But if we do defeat these other proposals, or the proposal, and if indeed our legislature is held in November, this will become law, and it will be law in 2024, making sure we have photo ID, making sure we don't do absentee applications, make sure we get rid of a Zuckerberg bucks, making sure we control all these ballot boxes, no more ballot harvesting. There are so many great things that will happen with Secure My Vote, and I know that tens of thousands of you that will be watching this potentially participated in that, as hundreds of thousands of you signed. But if indeed the proposal that is approaching or getting on the ballot in November passes, Secure My Vote will literally be run over, and it will be nothing will matter with Secure My Vote, because they Promote the Vote, which is going as a constitutional amendment, which is the reason it is going to be on the ballot. They collected the signatures. By the way, they paid in the neighborhood, are you ready for this? Almost $10 million. $10 million to gather the signatures for Promote the Vote. Almost all of that money came from outside Michigan. Imagine that. 10 million from outside money. That's because they paid for almost all their signatures. They didn't have people doing it. They want to get this in. They want to slide it through, because Promote the Vote in 2018 was voted for by 67% of Michiganders. This one, though, is going to eliminate pretty much all fair elections forever in Michigan. Why? Because it's going to prohibit photo ID. In other words, you can show an ID, or you can simply sign a paper that claims who you are with no verification needed. It's going to legalize ballot harvesting. It's going to allow local governments and counties to accept Zuckerberg money You see how that worked over us in 2020. It's going to prohibit any future post election audits unless they are conducted by the state or county election officials. So, Wayne County is the only people that can audit Wayne County. How does that work out for you? It's going to require Michigan to have 9 days of early voting. We're going to have a ballot box for every 15,000 voters all over the state of Michigan. No problems there, right? And of course, our military will be able to vote until Election Day, mailing them on Election Day, and they could come in up to 6 days after the election, which gives them plenty of time to park some more trucks and find some more ballots at drop boxes that they didn't realize they didn't pick them up from. Understand our elections are over if this amendment or proposal was to pass. So this is a no. The great news is, before I go on, is understand there are going to be 3 proposals on. I'll cover them all real quick. They are no, no, no. It is the only way to go. No, no, no. So mark it down. Tell everyone these are absolute no's. They will destroy Michigan in 3 different ways. So we know promote the vote has to be defeated. If we do not win the governor's race, we probably do not prevail here either. Unless it is very close, I think that if the governor prevails and gets out the votes, they're going to also succeed in these ballot initiatives, and it will be on all of us if we do not help make sure that does not happen. Secondly, there is going to be a proposal for an abortion amendment called the Reproduction Freedom for All Amendment. This is going to make Michigan, one of the most pro-abortion states in the entire nation, and I will tell you why. But before I go into that one, because it's more detail, I want to cover the one that has a number already, and that is proposal number 1, which is, guess what? Doubling the term limits for our legislature. We have term limits for a reason. That's why it has to go to a constitutional amendment, because term limits are there. So what this does is this would give your House of Representatives member not 3 terms and 6 years, but 12 years and 6 terms for them to serve in the House. And instead of 8 years and 2 terms in the Senate, it would be 3 terms and 12 years in the Senate. So they could serve for 12 years in the Senate or 12 years in the House. And they use this as, well, it used to be you could be 6 years in the House and 8 years in the Senate for 14. We've reduced it to 12. Don't listen to the crap. Guess who's backing this? The mayor of Detroit, Dugan, the Democrats, the unions, as well as some Republican establishment who absolutely believe this is a good thing. And I say this is not a time in Michigan to give our legislators another 6 or 8 or 10 years for them to serve over us. It is time for us to keep this ball rolling until we identify those people that are going to represent us and our voices. And so that is number 1 as a no. Number 2 and 3, we do not have a number for, because whichever one gets their signatures validated first will become proposal 2, and whichever one comes after will be proposal 3. Both of those are due by August 31 when the Board of Canvassers meet. I'm guessing that is then in less than 2 weeks or thereabouts, or a little over 2 weeks, I guess it will be, is when they will have these on there, because in order for them to be printed on the ballot, they have to get the signatures and know that they're going to be on the ballot. So we're going to know which one is 2 and 3. So we can't do a lot of promotion on proposal numbers at this time for those that don't know which ones to vote no or yes on. And I say to you, it doesn't matter. It's no, no, no. Let's move to the Reproduction Freedom for All Act. I want to read to you from the 92-word summary, because this really does summarize well. Establishes new individual rights to reproductive freedom, including the right to make and carry out all decisions about pregnancy, such as prenatal care, childbirth, postpartum care, contraception, sterilization, abortion, miscarriage management, and infertility. Allows states to prohibit abortion after fetal viability. Are you ready for this? That's their smooth way before they give you the real information. Unless it's needed to protect the patient's life, got it, or physical, what does that mean? Vague. Or mental health. It forbids the state discrimination in enforcement of this right. I'll get there in a minute. Prohibit prosecution of any individual or person helping a pregnant individual for exercising those rights established in this amendment. and invalidate all state laws that conflict with this amendment. By the way, I think there are in the neighborhood, take a look here on the bottom. I think there are in the neighborhood of 20 some laws, maybe it's closer to 30 laws that are currently on the books in the state of Michigan that will be null and void in regard to healthcare and healthcare freedom and reproduction, if indeed this proposal was to become a not just a law, part of our Constitution in the state of Michigan. The reason when we talk about the contraception and sterilization part of this, I want you to understand what this means is, first of all, it's going to literally take the consent away. Forget about adult women who are going to choose reproductive freedom as they say for themselves. But let's just say it is the law, meaning the legislature passes a law and says that viability of that unborn is at 16 weeks. This law, which supersedes everything, by the way, will state that if indeed a mental, let's see what it say, mental health professional was to determine, by the way, that's not a doctor. It could very well be a Planned Parenthood counselor, a school counselor, a massage therapist, a dentist, it mentions in here. These are medical healthcare professionals as defined, would all be able to authorize a woman to have an abortion up till the time of birth. And it could be done based on some physical thing. They have back pain, chiropractor. They are it's a psychologist. They're living with stress, and having this baby is going to create stress in their life. Since for their mental health, they need an abortion up until birth. All of those things, and most importantly, it goes to your children. So what this does is it takes away all parental consent, and it goes a step further. Let's just say that you have a 14-year-old daughter who gets pregnant and tells her friends who lives next door, and that mother finds out that the 14-year-old's pregnant. That mother could go with your 14-year-old daughter to the high school counselor and say she just found out she's pregnant. She doesn't want to tell her parents, whatever else. Guess what? They can authorize abortion up until the time of birth, and the neighbor can't be responsible. No consent by the parent whatsoever, and the medical records may very well be kept from the parent afterwards. But even if it's not, they cannot be held liable. Neither can anyone who recommends or helps and assists in any way, shape, or form in regard to abortions. But it goes beyond that. It talks about sterilization. Where does that go? Or fertility. That means that the person who is the transgender situation can certainly get hormone therapy, contraceptives, all of that. And guess what? Again, we don't need to tell the parents. So this is a parental consent issue. It will go down to the age of honestly over 12 years old. They've admitted this. There is no limit specifically. A judge, if this is challenged in court, is going to look at the vagueness of what the people passed and is going to side with the fact that they are indeed a mental health professional or a healthcare professional, and indeed that is what it is. And again, it is going to be not only vague in regard to this discrimination, and we talk about it when it comes to age discrimination, same thing. So this is going to and would make us one of the most pro-abortion states in the entire nation, and we must be unified to not only provide a slate of people that will provide and make Michigan a conservative leader that will pass good laws, that will represent and take care of and defend our individual rights and liberties, that will make sure that we can have legislature pass legislation in regards to limiting abortions to what they determine. It's up to our states. We hope to have a governor that would sign an adequate and right bill, and we already heard where she stands on that. I will cover these amendments in a more specific live on each one of these, along with providing you with graphics, bullet points, messaging that can be shared across all of our grassroots groups. We're going to work with our county leaders as well as other grassroots organizations who are going to also be pushing out this no, no, no campaign. We only have 84 days. 84 days to secure our elections, to preserve life, to be able to hold and rein in our legislature and hold them accountable, and to elect a very conservative group of people from county commissions and school boards, city councils, township boards, congressmen, senators, and our governor, and especially our attorney general and secretary of state, who are going to make sure we have safe, fair, secure elections in 2024. We need you to get involved. We need you to be able to put aside your preferences from 2 weeks ago, and instead, I ask you to focus on the enemy. There are a group of enemies that are in our state and that are in our nation. Whitmer, Benson, and Nessel are indeed the enemy. They wish to control you, your families, your children in the school and education, in their health. And they will indeed do that if we allow it to happen. Can I count on you? We're going to give you direction. We're going to help provide you with the tools that are necessary. And yes, we need resources. But the idea behind this is for us to collectively let everyone know in the state before they start spending millions and millions of dollars trying to fool people into believing that these amendments are good for us. We need to get out the message that these are disastrous and must be defeated, and why. And we know photo IDs popular by 80%. We know Zuckerberg bucks are not favored by anyone, Republican or Democrat, by I think 75%. We also know that parental consent is probably the most viral and rabid thing that our parents care about. These are the things we use, and I don't think anyone wants our legislature to have double the amount of time to lord over us as they have, or stand aside while we have a governor do what they did to us over the last couple of years ever again. Again, I'll come back to you and I will share with you the details of these along with some graphics. Once we have the proposal numbers, we will assign the proposals, we'll create some graphics as we mentioned, and we'll share with you what it is we need you to do. But if you worked in a campaign at a county level, we need to be able to activate you, and we're going to be working with those campaigns. Yes, we're going to be talking to Garrett and to Ryan and to other people and saying, hey, can you utilize your reach in social media, your email lists and whatever, in order for us to get the message out? Maybe it'll be texting campaigns, combinations. We have to get out people. Do you know that only half the people in churches vote? Are you aware of that? I think the number was 50% the last I saw. I want to look at this real quick. 55% of church attendees voted in elections. Only 49% of Americans voted in the last midterm. 49%. I don't know what the turnout's going to be this time, but it needs to be big, and it needs to be us. And it needs to be many of you who maybe have not voted in the past. Many of you that watch this who don't consider yourselves part of a political party, but you recognize the contrast between the tyranny, the oppression that we've experienced, and the risk that goes with that against defending your individual rights and liberties, those of the places you work and your businesses, and protecting your rights as a parent and protecting your children, both from their health standpoint and also from their education standpoint. Let my kids learn also. Just turn in their signatures, over 500,000 signatures. That's going to allow scholarships for you to be able to send your kids to other places and have that money that would be available in these scholarships be applicable to your child, no matter what the demographics are. It's an incredible thing. It's already working in the state of Florida, and it's something that we need to have here. So there's another petition that has been turned in, and that again will get done in early 2023. So in the primary, just so you know, there were about 2 million total voters in the primary, 1,071,000, I think it was on our side, and a little under a million on the Democrat side, but understand there wasn't a lot to vote for. In the presidential election, I should say, in the off year last time, it was a total of, I think it was 4,250,018 So that's probably in the neighborhood of what we're looking at, thereabouts. It's going to be 4.25 to 4.5 million, somewhere in there. So it's going to take 2 million plus, absolutely, in order for us to prevail, which means we've got to get busy and we've got to do it collectively. We got to be on one team and we need to focus again on nothing else but the enemy. So, everybody, I want you to have a great evening. I'm glad you joined me here. Uh, I hope that it encourages you because we are winning, but I have to bring us together. I have to push you away from the comfort zone and be able to start to talk about again the contrast that exist so that we can prevail in November. Because I don't want to say that I could have said or done something different 90 days from now because we just didn't get over the hump. I care about us. I care about you. I care about our freedoms. I care about it for your children and our grandchildren, and I care about it for America. Have a great evening, and we will talk to all of you soon.